Okay, what we're going to do today, being given that this is week 4 and you've now got another 4 weeks until you finish, because you finish and submit on, I think it's Friday the 14th of November or thereabouts. I want to sort of spend time this week here with you. As much of my time is talking about the structure of the ideas that you've developed. And to illustrate why it's so important not to do any writing until you develop the structure, I want to show you something I did over the weekend. Because what we've got here is a structure of an article that I want to write. And I've done most of the research. You're still doing your research. I've got an awful lot of stuff up in here waiting to get out to a particular audience. And I'm trying to get the structure so that I can write maybe 5,000 words or even 10,000 words if I need, depending exactly where this is going to go. And it's something I've been developing these ideas for the last about 4 or 5 years, but particularly big changes in the last couple of years. And I wanted to try and think out, how do I get a logical structure that readers who are academics like me, lecturers, and also some of the people at more senior levels who are trying to solve various problems within their organisation. This is designed to help concentrate my mind before I start actually writing. So I have to think about what my message is, who I'm trying to basically convince that this is a great idea. I'm looking at a topic called learning analytics, which is kind of bringing analysis of academic performance, you guys, your performance, into the world of big data and analytics, a topic I'm going to be talking to you guys in Subjects in Computing in about 4 or 5 weeks' time, about analytics and big data. So we're trying to bring things into the new era, as you might say, by terms like learning analytics. So I'm trying to connect a whole range of things together. Obviously you have an introduction, you have a conclusion, they just go in there automatically. And then you start thinking about, okay, now, I want to get from a position where I've got a case study, and from it I want to develop a story that is really, really convincing, that sucks the reader in a way that they cannot put the article down until they've finished it. And when they get to the end of it, the wow factor is kind of in here. What turn out to be quite interesting, quite stunning, and unusual sets of information. So you start off with, here is a bit of a context. What we're doing is looking back over the last 5, 6 years of how I have taught and assessed students at first, second and third year levels. And I've changed my approach very, very fundamentally. And that approach and that change appears to have had some interesting and significant results. So, first of all, a relatively short section. I don't know how long it's going to be yet, but it'll be a page or so perhaps, maybe a bit more, about different ways of teaching. That's what pedagogic means. It's theories of teaching. So, I want to introduce relatively briefly what I'm changing from and what I'm changing to. And because it's a case study, I've got to identify the type of modules and which year levels they're actually being given at. And then I want to do a little bit like in your assignments, your article, a kind of almost a historical, this is what has happened from and to. So I then had to think, now what actually is it about the from and the to situation that's really important? Now this is over sort of 3 years ago today. You are looking at probably about 15, 20, 25 years ago to today. So you've got a then and a now. In this context, it's academics who have a comfort zone of teaching the subject that they know everything about. They know more than anybody. And then they want to ram the knowledge down into you so that you know it all. And that leads to interesting things like how we use this time together, lectures and workshops and tutorials and so on. It also has interesting effects on how we set assessments and how we used to actually give you clues as to how we were going to assess them. And then the third thing I wanted to draw out, because these are three parts of what I've been doing and changing in the last 2 or 3, 4 years, how much research and how much reading have students been doing in the past? Because it's what's happening now, where I'm doing different things, that you guys are suddenly doing things very, very differently, even in your first year, let alone second and third year, where things just are fundamentally different. And then to connect in with things that's, in a sense, the key part, and analysing to find the data that really proves the situation. So here is the sort of things that are important, it's grade profiles. This is what happened back then. And then this is looking at a different way of teaching, which is, yes, I do actually have the expertise, yes, I am a good domain expert, but I transfer it to you in a very, very different way. What I'm doing, as you discovered yesterday and other days in the lectures, is I'm actually helping you to understand how to learn how to learn. How you can do the thing yourself, because, like I said yesterday, we can always take horses to water, but we cannot make them work. We can pour knowledge at you and you go to sleep, if we just ram it down you in boring lectures. You've all had lectures where there are 30 slides, probably at school or somewhere, 30 slides, 10 bullet points, and you kind of spend all your time reading it or ignoring what they're saying. And so, something quite different. So again, it turns out the same little section there, so I can just go copy, paste, because I want to cover the same sort of things there. This is what happened before, this is what happens afterwards. Kind of somewhat descriptive, timeline, some of you are doing timeline, some of you are doing a bit of description, the difference between, what program are you doing in this one? CS or CGP? You're doing CGP, so it's all to do with games programming. So you're looking at all the changes, so the then and the now, and maybe another one in the middle, kind of, you've got 2 or 3 timeline positions. And so you can think about what are the important aspects which are going to be similar in then and now. And you might have some numbers, then and now. There might be a number of people using controllers or watching videos online or whatever. So you could have a little bit of analysis, a few numbers that are important. And then this is where the wow factor part develops. The consequences, the really important consequences that get you to that top right-hand box in the marking grid, you remember? Which is all about many ideas about the same thing, different perspectives about each of the things, justifying how and why the changes have affected people and impact, and then the third one is impact into the 21st century. So you're trying to find analysis like that, consequences. You could really call these 2 bits consequences. And what's happened here is, okay, so I've got some numbers there, and some numbers there, some graphs there, and some graphs there. And what's happening here is to try to pull out the really important consequences, both primary consequences, first order, and then also some second order consequences, which are interesting because they help in other aspects. What we're looking at here is primary impact. The first order consequences, which is the change from there to there, appears to have very, very important changes for the good in the way that you guys actually achieve. It also turns out, and this is where some of my seniors are getting rather interested, we have a problem in most universities in the UK that black, minority, ethnic and international students tend to get lower grades and marks than the white Caucasian local students. We aren't actually sure why. All we know really is that it's there. And what comes out of the learning analytics between there and there is that that changes very significantly. There is actually no difference now in some of the modules I teach between all of the students. They're all the same profile, which is kind of interesting. So that's a really big impact on you guys. It's a very big impact that catches the attention of academics. And then the second order is it makes it easier because I can demonstrate to the readership and others the benefits, the positive impact. It makes it easy to sell the idea of changing from their current comfort zone to what could be considered to be a rather scary, dangerous position. But I can reassure them, so it helps me to sell the idea. And then, because it's all about numbers, and academics tend not to like numbers very much, because most people aren't very numerate, in any part of society actually, there's an important objective here to reassure the reader that it's actually painless. You don't need huge new computer systems and things to capture special data. You don't have to do lots more extra work. Keep it simple. And concentrate on the really important things, which is the benefits to students in terms of level of achievement. And then you wrap it up. But what's interesting is that you can actually, as I demonstrated, I've got that structure for then. I can now just go copy, paste, and drop it in there because that's a repeating sort of theme. Now, if I've got all of that filled up with lots and lots of words, it's kind of difficult to do copy paste. I've got to actually carefully retype teaching approach, use of contact, and so on. I can move, if I wanted to move, sort of maybe copy that into there and to there, it's dead easy when it's at this simple outline stage. Do you see the benefits of approaching, structuring your article like that? Provides focus, you can then start thinking, oh, I need to think about what research have I got about that aspect, or what research have I got about that, or as it happens, I've got to do more, get some numbers out of the system, or some system, my records for that and that, so I can actually finish off the numbers between now and whenever I want to submit the full version. It could also prompt me to look for more sources, references in terms of the supporting evidence about these different pedagogical approaches. Drives me towards research, and then the research that I do might actually say, Richard, you need to put another subsection in there. You need to break that down into 3 or 4 little logical bits that you can see. Now, it turns out that having learned how to do that as a sort of kind of problem structuring approach for an article or for an assignment, it also applies into almost every other sphere of activity, and including your programming activities, whether it's programming 1 or programming 2, whether it's your CGP related activities you'll be doing next year. Because if I'd started hacking the words for that, just going like that, I'd have made an absolute mess of it. It'd been a dog's breakfast. And if you start hacking your code without having developed the structure, it becomes a dog's breakfast, and it won't work. It's very, very difficult then to test it and so on. And whether you're designing a games engine, a rendering engine, doesn't really matter. There is a logical structure you've got to develop. If you're developing a website, again, you have to think about what's the logical structure that actually provides easily navigable trees and hierarchies. And you don't want to go too far down, because once you started building a web page, it gets very difficult to actually say, that should be 2 pages, and I need to copy that from there to there, and you kind of get lost. So building the structure logically is incredibly important in everything you do, particularly programming. Get that logical structure for your solution. Problem-solving logic is more important than whether you code in Java, C++, C#, etc. Don't worry so much in your programming and so on about the actual code, the language. What's crucial is the structure that you use. And the difference between your different programming languages is often about how you develop the structure within your problem solution. Whether you're using objects, or whether you're using declarative or procedural, or whatever the different types of languages are about. It's all about the type of structure that then works to solve your problem. So the sooner you learn to stop trying to write code, stop trying to write your article, think about the structure. Find your evidence if you're writing something, find your sources, develop your ideas, and then once you've got it down like, it'll take me a week or two now to write 5 or 10 or 15,000 words, whatever I need to do, because it's easy, because most of that, from there to there, I've got everything. I've got everything in there. I've got to do some work on there. I've got some of the work for there already done. And then I can write, once I've got that and that finished, the rest just flows. Pause out your fingertips. But until you've got that structure, you stop to think, you have this white screen, writer's block happens, and you don't know where to go. Get the structure. And it happens very easily. And what's going to happen, what I've found already this week, in these last 3 or 4 workshops today, it's much easier to work with you and confirm to you, or help you, if we've got a nice little structure like that to work with, rather than lots and lots and lots of words, which I've got to read, 300, 400, 500 words, it's kind of difficult to do it quickly. But if you've got a structure like that, in about a minute or less, I've absorbed the structure of your idea, the logic you're using, and can make some sensible comments for you. So this week, I'd like to see where you've got to, and next week, I really want to see well-developed structures that you can then start filling in, because then I shall be releasing the LNCS template to you at the end of this week. Not in the expectation you'll start using it for next Tuesday, but it's just there as a sort of comfort to you that it's available now that I've released it. But I still want to see and work with you next week on the structure, and this week the structure where you've got to, and also I'd like to see your bibliographies to make sure that they really are Harvard standard. And if you haven't quite got there, then we'll have a little discussion about how and where to get the advice, and maybe give you a demonstration, or you'll work through one with me, and then you'll become confident in your Harvard referencing as well, because you should be getting lots and lots of sources by now, and I can see one over there that looks seriously well populated with something. And, you know, again, as always, a couple of minutes, 3 minutes with each of you, and today and next Tuesday will help you get even better. And then you've got 4 weeks to develop the words. I shall be with you 3 out of those 4 weeks. Wayne will be looking after you in a fortnight while I'm out at a conference. Okay guys, get structuring.